Hello, this is Virtualis the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. When white opens with the queen's pawn opening, 1d4, they're often aiming for a civilized positional game. As black, the Englund Gambit, the immediate e5 on move 1, is like throwing a grenade in the center of a board saying, "Not today, come at me, bro." It can lead to some absolutely evil fun against the unprepared 1d4 player, like in a game today. Please enjoy. So in this game, my opponent led with 1d4, the queen's pawn opening, and as per the opening title, Englund Gambit, immediate e5, move 1, asking what is the pawn doing there on d4. And the forcing nature of this move is that really white has only one good response, which is to accept the gambit. So they accept the gambit, immediate knight to c6, attacking the pawn. And here, white doesn't really have that many options. And the logical play, which is actually still the best move, is to defend that pawn with the knight. Queen now to e7, and very commonly white will now bring out the bishop. And here we have the next move, which I've talked about before, the killer queen, killer black queen of the Englund Gambit, which is queen to b4 with check, also pressuring the b2 pawn and also attacking the bishop on f4. So this is punishing the bishop for having come out early. Usually, white will find the best move, which is bringing the bishop back to d2. And here we can now take the pawn. This is not the most optimal move, and I think here white is in fact +3. But the most natural looking move for white is to bring the bishop here to give X-ray defense to the rook. The best move for white is to bring the knight out, and in fact that is their only good move. It's not entirely obvious that is the best move, but that is the only good move for white. Every other move for white here gives a significant advantage to black. But most of the time you will see white play the bishop, seemingly a good move, but now we've got our own bishop, which pins the bishop to the king. And in this position, white is in some serious trouble. Now, black here decides to bring out the queen to unpin, but now we can just straight up take. And here white does in fact play the best move, which is to capture with the knight. If they captured with the queen, then that will be mate. So they sort of avoided that trap, took with the knight, but now I can take the rook. And at the end of this sequence, black is completely winning at -9. So black here is doing extremely well. As long as black doesn't stuff up, basically I am winning. Now white is forced to sort of block the check, and they decide to block with the knight, which makes sense. And here, best move, take the pawn, because if they take back, it evaporates their only bit of development and I evacuate my queen. And happy days. Now here the opponent plays a relatively good move, which is putting a second attacker on that knight. And of course, that causes a problem here. Give an extra defender with the pawn. They move the knight here, and here probably a little bit flush with with carelessness, because I knew I was doing extremely well. I played a bishop to f5, which is a straight up careless mistake. Still winning, still -6, because of course that straight up just hangs that bishop. The opponent decided to push a pawn, which I thought was interesting, because it makes sense, placing pressure on the pinned piece. Here I decided to take that pawn, expected that they would take back with the pawn, and then queen to this position. So potentially, if they take, I might be able to force something. So they now develop their other knight. I decide to capture. And the interesting thing here is Stockfish actually called it, well, chess.com's implementation of Stockfish called this a brilliancy. I don't think this is a brilliancy. And one of the interesting things down this Englund Gambit lines for black is that Stockfish can get quite confused at lower ratings, so lower depths of analysis. It often thinks that white isn't so badly off, but as it goes to deeper analyses, deeper ratings, it realizes that actually, white is absolutely terrible, and that difference in rating can be several points. So I think this was actually just an error by the computer, because I don't think that was particularly brilliant. So they take the bishop, which makes sense. Now I get to long castles. And here it's a matter of I'm trying to force some piece trades. So, and this is one of those things which is so fun about the Englund Gambit lines. It's not positional, it's tactical, it's just super fun. Opponent brings their sort of a king out of the way. And here, what I saw is a potential royal fork, which is very nice. So knight out, they bring sort of the bishop out. Of course, the queen is now under attack. And here I thought, yeah, I'm not gonna try saving the queen. I'm just gonna take. They take back with the bishop. Of course, the bishop is now stuck in the corner. And now I've got the royal fork. So I win the queen. And at the end here, we enter this very interesting endgame where they have the pair of knights and a bishop, so 3 minor pieces, while I've got the rook pair. I've only got 4 pawns, and 2 of those pawns are sort of isolated, while I still have 7 pawns. So I think I'm doing really well here, so 4 points of material up, and Stockfish agrees. Stockfish gives this a rating at -8. But this is sort of a very interesting, unbalanced position. With the 2 knights, I still have to be very careful because knights can be pretty tricky. So here, I think I do okay. And having so many pawns just helps. Like, that knight pretty much has to retreat back. And, it's a matter of trying to push, these pawns. So this pawn in particular is a passed pawn. So potentially it's my most valuable piece. So here, push, potentially I can kick that knight. There we go. Knight jumps. And here, threatening the knight. Knight has to go back. Now, this is controlling the diagonals. I need to be careful. Here we go. But, their pieces just can't infiltrate. Just can't infiltrate. And now I've got a piece that can help push that forward. And so they choose to take with the bishop, but now the 2 rooks on the same rank. And basically in this position, I can force trade, I think, 2 of the minor pieces for 1 rook. Now here, it looks like white could potentially fork those 2 rooks. However, it actually doesn't work, because if they try to do that, I can take that bishop. If they take that rook, now the pawn takes, and now this knight is pinned against the king, 2 attackers, and basically I will capture that knight the next turn. So that actually doesn't work. I still win 2 minor pieces for 1 of the rooks. In this game, my opponent opted to try to disconnect the rooks with one of their knights. Doesn't matter. Take, they take. Same thing happened. So I traded 2 of their minor pieces for 1 rook. And now I even end with a fork of the pawn and knight. There we go. So now both of these pawns are passed pawns. Push. Yep. Push again. They try to move the king over, but now I'm going to sack that rook for that knight. There we are. And here my opponent opts to resign. Obviously, that's going to queen next turn. Nothing they can do. Good game. GG. The big takeaway from this game is that the Englund Gambit is a super fun and often effective opening against 1d4. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.